Hello and congratulations to all of you for the wonderful work you're doing in the world. My name is Annetta Wilson, and I am a media trainer and communication skills expert, otherwise known as a former reporter trying to share secrets with everyone so their good messages can get out into the world. And we all know you have amazing messages to share. But first, you have to get someone to listen. You have to get them interested in what you're doing. So today's session is all about that elevator pitch, the elevator speech. And briefly, what that is what you say to someone in a short elevator ride when they ask, "What do you do?" And we're all asked that question. The problem is most of us answer it with our name, the name of our organization, and our title, which doesn't really give anybody something to grab onto to keep the conversation going. So I'd like to share some tips with you and perhaps even have you leave after our time together with one new way to talk about what you do. And if that sounds good, get your pen and paper out. Because today we're going to learn why you've only got 15 seconds to impress someone when they ask what you do. Now, why is this important to me? Well, I spent over 3 decades as a broadcast journalist, as a reporter, news anchor, producer, talk show host, and writer. And in that time, I learned that you don't have a lot of time to get people to pay attention because attention spans are about that short now. So you have to start the conversation with something that keeps them riveted, something that keeps them wanting to know more. And the first thing you need to kind of let soak in about the elevator pitch, you have to talk about problems. You have to talk about the bad stuff. You have to talk about the things people don't want in their lives. Why? Because we all have problems and we all want them fixed. Wouldn't you agree? So what people really want when they ask, "What do you do?" is they want an answer to, how does what you do fix my problem? So we're going to go deep on the first of 4 levels of the elevator pitch, and that is the problem. The other 3 are the promise, the picture, and the pitch, and I'll briefly go over those. But the most important one is the problem. So when someone says or asks, "What do you do?" you should start with the big problem that you solve. Think about it. Think about your organization. Think about the work that you do. Think about the changes you've made in people's lives. What was the problem they had when they walked in the door? That's the thing you talk about first. For example, and I'll use an example not related to what any of us do. If I am a physician, the last thing I'm going to say to someone if they ask, "What do you do?" is say, "I'm a physician." Because people will assume they know what you do and how you do it. You want to take any assumptions out of the equation from the beginning. So instead of saying, "I'm a physician," I might say, "I help save people's lives when they've exhausted all their remedies so they can live and play and prosper and have precious time with their families." Now, not one time did I use the word physician, doctor, healthcare professional, because you don't want people to assume that they know what you do. Does that make sense? And I'm hoping you're nodding your head yes. So right now, what I'd like you to do is take a couple of seconds and write down the biggest problem you solve with the work that you do in the world. Keep in mind, you might write something completely different from your colleague at another organization, and that's okay, because your organization is specific many times to the area you serve. That's a good thing because it means there is no one size fits all, here's the only answer and the only solution. It shows that you have a lot of different ways to fix a problem. It may be workshops that you offer. It may be activities that the youth participate in. It may be how many locations you have. So think about what problems would exist if you didn't do what you do. It's a very unusual and unique way of thinking about what you do, but that's what you want. You don't want to sound like everybody else. You want to sound different and memorable. And the idea behind the elevator speech is to simply keep people asking you questions about what you do. So think about it this way. If a conversation is a room, the elevator speech is the door you walk through to get into the room. It's not the entire conversation. It's just enough that they want to know more. So using my work as an example, when people ask, what do you do? Well, what I don't say is, I'm a former journalist, I'm a media trainer, I'm a communication skills expert. Because with each one of those terms, people will automatically come up with their own definition of what they think I do. Instead, I will say, you know, those times when it's really important that people get what you do because your business depends on getting new clients. I help you not mess that up after hello. I never gave a title. I never said exactly what I do, but everyone can remember a time when a conversation tanked. And everyone can remember a time when they had to explain what they do after someone says hello, because nothing happens until the right thing is said after hello. So hopefully now you've got at least one problem listed that you solve. So let's take that problem and put it in a sentence in a way that you could answer a question. What do you do when someone asks? If you have a program that helps young people find jobs and someone says, what do you do? Well, I work for an organization whose goal is to end joblessness by helping young people find jobs before they even need them. That lowers the tax base for everyone else and puts more talented people into the world. You never said the name of your organization, but there's so many things in that answer that people can grab onto. What kind of jobs? How old are these young people? What do you train them for? How do they get jobs? And that's what you want. You want people to keep asking you questions, because when they're asking, they're buying, or meaning they're interested. When you're talking, you're selling. You want them to be asking. So that's one way to do the answer to hi, what do you do? Or where do you work? So both work. I mentioned to you that we're going to go deep on the problem, and I want you to keep working on this. So this is a process that is never ending, because you don't do just one thing. So for every problem you solve, you can have a different elevator pitch. How do you know when to use them? Well, who exactly are you talking to? Are you talking to people that you're recruiting to work with you? Are you talking to people who can donate to your club? Are you talking to young people who may want to take advantage of the services you offer? Let your audience determine which problem you talk about, right? Hopefully you're nodding yes. I mentioned to you that I was going to give you one surefire way to change the way you talk about what you do. And you'll notice I don't have a lot of PowerPoints. Why? Because you're not going to have them when you're talking to someone. I want you to focus on being face-to-face like we are now. So think about what you do. Think about one example when what you do really worked. Think about one person, one individual who really benefited from what you have to offer. So you got that person in mind? If you don't, come up with one. Here's an easy way to tell people what you do. You simply say, well, there was a person who came to us and blank, here's what was going on with them. And because we helped them, put them in this program, taught them, connected them with resources, they are now doing blank. So you tell someone else's before and after story, but in the middle is what you've done to help them get to their after. So you don't even have to talk about what your organization offers. You just talk about the person who came in, couldn't figure this thing out, maybe had gone everywhere else, maybe things were on the decline for them, they didn't know where to turn. And because they encountered you and the amazing people that you work with and took advantage of the programs that you offer, now they're on a completely different path. And then you tell a little bit about what that path looks like. This is not, I work for, this is the name of our organization, and here's what we do. They can read that on your website. They can read that in marketing materials. They can read that in a brochure. You want to bring alive what you do in people terms, because if any organization helps people, it's definitely yours. So talk about your strengths, and your strengths are your strength is helping people, but it's also about the problem they had when they walked in the door. So elevator speech number 1, you talk about the problem you solve. Number 2, you give them an example of someone's before and then their after they've worked with you. Hopefully that'll get your wheels turning here and thinking about examples. Always have an example to share that illustrates the work that you do. People will connect the dots. I said I was going to talk to you about the other parts of the elevator pitch that we really don't have the time to go into now, and they are the promise, the picture, and then the pitch. We talked about the problem. That's the most important one. So if you can't talk about anything else, talk about the problem you solve. The second of those 4 P's, problem, promise, picture, and pitch, is the promise. Well, what does that mean? It simply means you telling them what you can do. If you paint the picture of the problem, the promise is, this is what we've done. This is what we do. This is what we can do. It's assuring them that you can do something about the problem you just mentioned. That's the second of the 4 P's. The third P is the picture. What does it look like after you've solved the problem? This goes back to the before and after that I just mentioned. So you're going to paint a picture of what the problem looks like after your promise that you can fix it. Are you following me? If not, I'll give you some resources that you can go a little bit deeper into this. And the 4th P, promise, no, problem, promise, picture, pitch. Only after you've talked about the problem, given them the promise of what you can do about it, painted a picture of what the after looks like, do you make your pitch. And your pitch is not trying to sell them. It's simply asking, would you like to know more? And if you've done the other 3 correctly, they're going to keep asking questions. So if you would like to know more on how you can take this a little deeper, I've put together a program for you. It's called, You've Got Less Than 15 Seconds, Impress Me. And you'll find out all about it at my website, speakwithease.com, and all the contact information is there. Basically, this program walks you through everything that I just gave you the microwave version of right now. You'll hear me working with people. You'll hear examples of how to put your elevator pitch together, and you'll get some rewards along the way. It's a fun program. So go out there, talk about problems, talk about the amazing work that you do solving them, and let's help more people and change the world. I believe you can do it.